live feed, please?
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay, Ralph, you're good.
Thank you. All right. Good evening. Call back to order the Walton Township Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. We started at 6:15 and went to executive session. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Gartz?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Krupa?
I'm here.
Ms. Mangan?
Here.
Mr. Nasser?
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Here.
Ms. Stites?
Here.
Mr. Wondrak?
Here.
Mr. Adenizio?
Here. Thank you. At this time, we will jump ahead to, well, actually, I will say, President's report. Incredible graduation. Nice job, we mentioned before, by the high school administration. It was certainly a well-planned and very well-attended event. So my hats go off to them for all their hard work. And since this is actually our first meeting since our lunches ended for the year, I'd like to say thank you to all the volunteers that came out and helped deliver lunches to our students. And Sandy Baloney, our food service manager, and her incredible staff of people that they came in, and every week they prepared the lunches, 2 meals a day. I mean, just a ton of food went out to these kids. And the last 2 weeks, the WTEA, with Gail Marr as the president, she organized food deliveries. They donated the food, and we got the food out to the students that needed it. So thank you to the WTEA and everybody for the 17 weeks that we did this. It's hard to believe it was 17 weeks, but thank you to everybody that participated. We certainly did a lot of good. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Hanrahan. You're on mute, Dr. Hanrahan.
Thank you. Last Thursday, a district-prepared parent survey was sent out regarding the reopening of school. This survey's deadline is extended to Thursday at noon. This week, Dr. Gleason is in the midst of moderating 3 separate stakeholder focus groups. These groups include parents, teachers, board members, medical personnel, administrators, and individuals from a variety of other fields. After the Restart and Recovery team met last week, the principals were charged with assembling the respective pandemic response teams to mitigate building-specific needs. The pandemic response teams have started to meet, and they will be meeting throughout the summer. The reopening plan is due to the Office of the Executive County Superintendent by August 1st. I propose that an additional public meeting be added next week, focusing strictly on our reopening plan. I wish to provide an update on the progress of the district's investigation concerning the presence of mercury in the South Gymnasium at Wall High School. On July 1st, a meeting took place with district administrators, a board member, WTEA leadership, and members of the WTEA Health and Safety Committee and environmental scientists from New Jersey Work Environment Council, or WEC. The initial finding of mercury was discussed, and the full report was shared with the WTEA and the New Jersey WEC. New Jersey WEC made recommendations for next steps. Additional air samplings under specific conditions and the use of a more sensitive instrument were some of the recommendations from WEC. This morning, the first of the recommended air sampling tests took place. The more detailed instrument was used. Results will be reported when they become available. Later this morning, district administrators assembled another meeting with the high school administrators, WTEA leadership, the majority of the WTEA Health and Safety Committee, a board member, and the same environmental scientist from New Jersey WEC. The purpose of this meeting was to inform the group that the first recommended air test was being conducted and to share the results of a concrete and soil test that was conducted on June 30th, 2020. This report, the concrete and soil, is dated July 16th. The district conducted concrete and soil samples for the purpose of ascertaining the scope of a future remediation project. There are no current regulations that apply directly to the content of mercury in concrete. However, the sample collected from the upper 2 inches of the concrete slab located in the southeast corner of the gym revealed a mercury concentration that exceeds the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's residential direct contact soil remediation standard for mercury. At this time, soil samples were taken from these areas. The results from the soil sampling in the high school gym revealed levels of mercury below the most stringent New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's soil remediation standard. The WTEA was provided with a copy of this concrete and soil report. There will be subsequent meetings as additional information becomes available. I would also like to address the topic of the central school trailers. As noted during the last workshop meeting on July 14th, the Board of Education and I are in receipt of Dr. Cram's report. Upon reading the report, it is clear to me that I must do some prerequisite research so I can best digest the report. Since my start date last Monday, the majority of my time has been spent on the reopening of school. I expect this to be the case until the district develops a solid reopening plan. That said, the Central School Trailer Report is important to me, and it is a priority to this Board of Education. This Board of Education is committed to releasing this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11, Board of Education updates. We are going to do a board retreat this Thursday. So that is our first one this year. So should be a good one. In person at the intermediate school in the cafeteria. All right. This time we'll open up for public comment. Your comments are limited to 5 minutes.
Ralph, before we do that, could
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I meant to, and I apologize. I'd like to introduce our new attorney, Ms. Athena Cornell. Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thanks so much for having me.
I apologize. I did have it jotted down, and I skipped right over it, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
Okay. With that, now we will move on to public comment.
Hey, Ralph.
Yes, Russell.
I'm sorry. The only thing I would just say that the public comment is on the agenda items that are up for action, correct? That's the
Yes.
focus of these comments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right. You know what? I will read it. For the purpose of commenting on agenda items that the board will be taking action on this evening, in accordance with policy number 167, public participation in board meetings, the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. That's number 12 on the agenda. That's actually on there every month. Okay, so go. Miss Cross.
Hi, this is Betsy Cross. You know what would be helpful, Dr. Handerhan, if on the agenda, when we're talking about specific topics, you actually put it on the agenda. So I have mentioned this to prior superintendents before, and they don't do it. And I really want you to succeed here, and I really want to help you out as much as I possibly can. But parents are really getting concerned, and not over you. We're concerned with the board, and we're concerned with this reopening. You're talking about mercury. It's extremely, extremely dangerous. I know it because I am allergic to it. If you're talking about mercury, put it on the agenda and attach these reports. You mentioned you gave copies of them to just the WTEA. You should have had them posted online today for people to read. I'm extremely nervous. My son is in the high school. I don't know if he's allergic to mercury. And it's so upsetting that we now find out that some of the levels are higher, and you're doing the same, the board is doing the same thing. The attorney, Miss Athena Cornell, you've got to give us better advice than our last attorney. You don't want lawsuits. You've got to get these reports up there. And on the trailers, that's not good enough. You're committed to releasing it when? We need to know tonight. I went back and
I don't mean to interrupt you because I know I'm just meeting you for the first time, but I think this is comment on agenda items only. So if there's any comments on that, I hear your comments on the other pieces, which will be appropriate for the next public comment period, but this is limited to agenda items only. So if we could do that at this point in time, and then we'll come back on the second public comment period.
the whole purpose is, this is why they need to be agenda items. You're talking about my child's safety. They need to be written and typed on the agenda so I can talk about them.
Understood. So let's, at this moment, if you have any comments specific to the agenda items, then we can proceed in that way. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Thank
Ralph,
you.
you said, okay, thank you. Ralph, you said you were going in executive session to talk about A and D, which were 2 items. You had 2 other items in executive session that you mentioned. So hopefully you didn't discuss them in executive session, or did you make a mistake? If you could let me know. We're missing a report this month, which is very important. It's the report of the treasurer talking about the school funds. Last month we had $15 million in the bank, and right now you don't have an agenda. I know we're switching banks. I've had issues with the banks. I'd like the auditor to look at that. We have unknown bank fees. Mr. Hall goes on and on. He can't produce a document. So it needs to be investigated. Who were we paying all these bank fees to, and how much were they? Mr. Smythe is holding up information on and on again. I am extremely concerned. Let us know, are tuition students less than they were last year? Because I think people are getting very nervous about the reopening, and we may lose people, and you're going to lose people that are going to the school that are looking to go somewhere else. I do not have a comfort of it at all. Go over all these payments on the trailers. I see asbestos testing. I see money to the county. I see the May 12th minutes you're approving. It talks about the payment of $32,000. Now the numbers are different. This is why you need to vote on items in public, and we need to see them, and you don't demo the trailers before you actually do it. You have so many problems now. I can't even keep track. It is becoming endless. So go over, Mr. Smythe, all of these payments on the trailers that you're approving tonight. I want every board member to know what they are and how much they are and who we're paying, including, the architect. On and on about payments. We got 4 superintendent payments on here prior. Eileen Honahan. We've got Cheryl Dyer for vacation pay for $25,000. We've got Mark, another prior superintendent, making him a payment. We've got another superintendent. We got bad decisions made by the board over and over and over again. It's not good enough that you weren't on the board at the time. You need to address it now. It drives me crazy to see all these payments for prior superintendents that we're paying. And I do not want to see the administrators getting the same sweetheart deal that Dr. Handerhan just got, but you guys approved it. I do not want to see health benefits at 1.5% for every administrator and non-represented employee in Wall. Or you're going to see ethics complaints all around.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up, and I gave you additional time. Just to clarify too, all votes are done in public, by the way. Kathy?
Hi. I have never been on one of these things with the
Okay,
Board of
look, just state your name and town you live in for the record, please.
My name is Katie Jernica, and I'm in Wall, in the Central School District. I don't know what's on the agenda. Again, I've never done one of these, but I know you guys are going to be talking about reopening, and I just want to put it out there. Is there any talk about maybe doing some outside instruction? It's been floated around in other places, and it just may be some food for thought. It's really all I have to say. We have the space. Let's use it.
And we're doing a special meeting next week to discuss school opening, because it is a very important issue. And your idea is a good idea, as long as the weather cooperates, of course. But I see Dr. Gleason, Dr. Handerhan shaking their heads, so they jotted that down. And I would encourage you next week to check out the meeting. And if you have anything in between, you certainly can reach out to Dr. Handerhan, Dr. Gleason, and they'll certainly take your call or email and get back to you.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Chris?
Hi there. Hi, Mr. Adonisio.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity to speak again today. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Adonisio, for your offer to reach out to Dr. Gleason to provide my contact information, as I expressed an interest in participating in the stakeholder parent focus group. And I'd like to thank Dr. Gleason for her immediate response to me back, informing me to follow up with Mrs. Antonello at Central Schools for the pandemic response team. Unfortunately, I've been informed today that that team is no longer accepting new participants, and I've been offered an opportunity to serve as an alternate, which I'm happy to do. Ms. Cornell, I hope that this is an agenda item, as I think it was the first thing stated at the beginning of the meeting in terms of the road back and looking at opportunities to return back to school. I'd just like to.
It's actually just, I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry. It's actually, that was part of the superintendent's report, so it's not on the agenda per se for purposes of board voting, which is why we would generally reserve this kind of discussion for the second public comment section during the meeting.
Well, I can appreciate that. Unfortunately, though, I think you've mentioned it as part of your meeting here as a standing meeting and have offered public comment. My comment is very brief, and I hope you'll give me an opportunity to share that. And that is in terms of, I wanted to thank actually the Board of Education for including the question in the survey around 5 full live days I know at our board meeting last week that was stated as being an impossible gesture. And I'd like to thank the board for listening to those comments, including it in the survey. Albeit I do believe, as someone who's trained in design of surveys, survey design and administration, that it would prove prudent in future surveys to not initiate an ambiguous question around all of the models require masks. That gives a notation that masks would be required all day versus at dismissal or entry of the school. And I just like to have it noted that that kind of an ambiguous question could lead to results that are not appropriate or may lead people to vote in a certain way. Again, I thank the board for your participation and your continuous acknowledgement of some of the comments noted on last week's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
And
evening.
if I could just clarify, there seems to be some confusion in terms of the public comment periods. So the public comment period number 1 is limited to the items on the board's agenda, which is different than any earlier discussions or reports. So those agenda items are for action. And that is why that public comment is given before any of the action items are taken, so that the board has a public comment on those very items that they're going to vote on. After the voting period, there's a second public comment section for any other items. So I just wanted to clarify that. I know I'm the newcomer here, but just for purposes of clarification on the agenda.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Andy, you had your hand up. Did you have something? Sorry.
That's okay. And it's really going back to number 11, so I'm making sure that I'm not busting our rules that
No, go ahead.
Ms. Cornell is also helping us with, because I appreciate that you announced about the retreat. But public confidence is built in many different ways, and I'd like for people who are out there understand that the retreat is for the purposes of helping this board to get better at its roles and functions. We're going to be doing that with the consultant of our lawyer, if I'm not mistaken, but there are other resources in the future that we might use. But some of the things that you all have seen or have questions about in terms of operations, even for us, we've got to remember there's 6 of us that just came on within the last year. This is a learning process, and we're very hardworking people, all of us, and we do the best that we can and learn from our mistakes. And I just want people to understand that that's what this retreat is about. It's about getting better at what we're doing and even discussing the things that we have a question amongst ourselves about. So we are working at becoming a better board, and we're happy to have our new people on with us to help us do that.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to number 13, approval of secretary's minutes. Do I have a motion for approval for the executive session of June 9th, the workshop meeting June 9th, executive session June 23rd, and the business meeting of June 23rd?
So moved.
Ralph, don't you have to close don't you have to close public comment?
Sorry, yes.
Ralph,
We
you just unmute. You just unmuted me. I would like to talk again because I didn't get to finish what I wanted to say. So hopefully Dr. Handerham will let me on the agenda items.
I'm sorry, it's one time.
Can you
per
go over
session.
how you have?
Okay. All right. Public comment is closed. Thank you, Joe. And now motion for approval for the minutes. Executive session June 9th, workshop meeting June 9th, executive session June 23rd, and business meeting June 23rd. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion by Russell. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chris. Mr. Smythe, roll call.
No questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes. Thank you. Number 14, policy. Recommended approval after public hearing for the following policies. Policy 3421.13, 4421.13, 8210, and regulation 8220. I will, I'm sorry, those are second readings for those policies. I will open up public comment for these policies. And it's only for these policies. Mr. Frost, do you have something for these policies? It's not coming on.
You have her muted, Ralph.
I am trying to get it to shut off and it's not going off.
Can the technician help?
Yeah, the unmute is not going off on this. Still not. Ms. Cross?
Yeah, I mean, my comment was on the cash report for,
Ms. Cross, this is only for this policy. Do you have any comments on these policies?
no, but I did have that question on where is the money in the bank? We had $15 million last year.
That'll be the next thing. Thank you.
No, I don't want to ask it again and waste time, so please
No.
answer the question. And when is
Ms.
Dr.
Cross, no, Ms. Cross. It's not that time of the meeting. All right, seeing no other comments for second reading, we'll close that public portion. Do I have a motion for these policies?
So moved.
Motion by Russell, second by Andy. Any comments? Seeing none, Mr. Schweik.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Hall.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Adenizio.
Yes, thank you. Number 15, Board of Education report. Could I have a motion for A through E?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Adam. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Russell. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr.
Ralph,
Swipe?
Ralph,
Yeah,
Ralph,
yes, I'm sorry.
before we discuss, I would like to just have Adam discuss letter D. The committee, the Finance Facility Committee did meet, interviewed 3 auditors, reviewed the proposals, put out minutes to the committee, to the board in their packet on Friday. And Adam, if you'd like to add to anything about that, feel free.
Thank you, Russell. You beat me to the unmute button. So we interviewed 3 different auditors. We chose one. It was a split vote, so and it was really close. There were 2 really, really good top performers, but eventually we did come to a 3-1 vote. So that's why I'm taking this over. Russ was the dissenting. They were pretty evenly matched. The audit firm that we chose does a lot of districts and municipalities within Monmouth and Ocean counties. They had a focus on internal controls and some cybersecurity items, which we felt was important, especially given the fact that we may have a virtual component going into the new year. One thing that really stuck out, I think, for a few of us, and I'm going to speak personally for myself, that moved me towards this versus the other, was the focus on a third-party certification for the district that we do have the opportunity to pursue. We can with any audit firm, but at least understanding what their standards were ahead of time, I think was, it really moved the needle for at least myself in understanding what their goal for us as a district may be. I did check the references. They checked out very well. And, you know, that was really all it was. The three candidates were all supremely qualified. So coming to this it was tough, and we discussed it back and forth and eventually settled on that 3-1. If anybody has any questions, please.
Mr. Krupa?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the committee structure for doing this work, and looking forward to it keeping on working like this. And for asking the entire board what input we had prior to your setting up these interviews and conducting them. And I know you did your due diligence with that, but I'm Adam, I'm sorry if I didn't hear you right with all of the detail, but was there one thing that set this group apart from the others? And again, this helps with building confidence in our decisions.
So the one thing that really did stick out is I think auditing is not the most glamorous job, and you know, I'll let Brian speak to that. I mean, it can be a very dry subject. It's accounting, forensic accounting. It's digging into a lot of details. And the one thing that did stick out about this firm was they really did give it a more modern twist, a more cutting edge type viewpoint of how to dive in and look at the numbers. You know, at the end of the day, an audit firm is an audit firm. They're all going to focus on different things. But the one subject that we discussed that we asked every audit firm was what is the role of an independent auditor versus an advisor? The auditor works for us. They don't work for Dr. Handerhan. They don't work for Mr. Smythe. They are our assurance that our financials are in line. So, you know, going into that, really for us, looking at the internal controls, a lot of them focus on, you know, really from a policy level down to the purchase order. They take a comprehensive approach at not just advising Brian and making sure that our purchasing policies and all the other items that they're auditing are in line with the state and federal laws, but also we're able to get the education and understand what we're supposed to do, what's our role, and how we best keep the district in line with what those laws and regulations are. So, I mean, listen, like I said, all the firms really were stellar. There were two that really stuck out, and it really was a tough call.
I'm sorry to be leading you, but wasn't there some type of certification?
Oh, yes, there was. It's a national ASBO. It's the Association of Business Officials. It's something that we can pursue regardless of auditor. And it's a long-term goal, but it's similar to an accreditation for a police department, where, you know, we're able to set a standard and have somebody else come and certify that we're holding that standard. So, you know, it's a symbol to the public that, you know, we're really committed and really want to make sure that we're holding the best practices, not just, within New Jersey, but on a national level.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything? Nope, seeing none. Have a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Adam. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Christine. Any other discussion? Nope. All right. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
No on letter D, yes on the others.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes. Thank you. Dr. Handerhan, number 16, Superintendent's report. You're still on mute.
This evening, we have several appointments, and I would like to highlight as well some of the personnel that will be having, that are joining, that are 10-month employees. So they will be, they are added to the Human Resources report. There were no HIBs. Letter C, there are tuition students. Title III relates to the district's ESL program, where Wall Township is the lead, the LEA, the lead educational agency in that department. There is also the statement of insurances that high school students that are age appropriate were previewed the registration laws. The Danielson framework is the teacher observation and evaluation system that what is adopted by the district, and it is required to be approved every single year. Additionally, I recommend the approval of the New Jersey Department of Education's optional reflective practice for evaluating highly tenured staff. This is an option for teachers that are evaluated in the category of highly effective, and it is more of a portfolio assessment. Letter H, I'm recommending for approval the New Jersey Principals Evaluation for, it is the instrument that principals and vice principals are evaluated on. I'd like to recommend also the Delta T group, and that is a special education agency that works with a high needs population. And recommend the approval of out-of-district and tuition placements for special education students for the 2020-2021 school year, and recommend approval to accept tuition students placements for special education for the year 2020 and 2021. And I recommend the approval of travel and professional development expenses for the 2019-2020 and the 2020-2021 school years. And that wraps that up.
Thank you. Could I have a motion for 16A through I?
So
I'm
moved.
sorry, A through L.
So moved.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Wait, hold on one second. Could I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second. Okay. Questions, comments? Aaron?
In regards to the Title III consortium, would I have to abstain in regards to that my district is listed under there? Okay, great. Just want a clarification. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Mangan,
Out for out.
Yes to all, and I'm going to abstain on letter D.
thank you. Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Bondrak,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes. Mr. Smythe, number 17, Business Office.
Ask for a motion to approve by consent agenda items 17A through G.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Adam, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ken. Any discussion, questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Smythe. Not being on the up and up about knowing this, maybe I should have asked earlier. We do have the treasurer's report generally. Is that not shown at the business meeting? Or am I missing something? Was it usually at the workshop?
No, it's normally at the business meeting that we take action. It's our year end. We're still closing out the year, so we'll have 2 in the month of July. I mean,
Thank
the month of August.
you for clarifying that.
Well,
Anybody else? No? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Smythe.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Yes. Okay. This time I will open up public comment. Limit it to 5 minutes.
Betsy Cross,
Cross?
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall. Could you let me know who the other auditors were that applied? You said there were 3. Did our current auditor apply to be the auditor this year? Mr. Nasser, yes. Who was the third?
Mr. Nass, would you like me to answer that?
Well, wait until the end, Russell.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Tuition in students. On this report, you have about 46,000 of tuition in students. Could you give us an update on where we're at, where we normally are for tuition in? Because I think we normally have like $500,000 in tuition. Are we getting as many people coming here as we normally do in the past? If you could give an update on that. The last 3 monthly reports have shown you have 100% attendance in all the schools. And I don't know how you could do that because you haven't been taking attendance in the high school. So, but you're down for 100% and you're down for every other school. I don't know if that's really legit that you could say that without taking attendance. And I don't know if you're jeopardizing your federal and state funding. I did bring up last month, I would like to see a grant writer, and I didn't see one hired tonight. So could you give an update, Dr. Handerhand, if you're looking into that? I'm going to guess your school probably had one. I didn't look, but I'm going to guess you did. Let me know. Nurses, we're probably going to need more nurses if we're opening up. I thought you had a 5% chance of opening. I don't think we're much higher right now based on where we're at. I don't think you should have extended this survey until Thursday. I think you should have come out with a new survey. And I think the survey should have included how many parents do not intend on sending their students at all to school and only want to do virtual. Like I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, South Carolina was 22%. So you need to know that. These surveys cannot be anonymous. That's another issue. You got to know who the people are that are going to be on the buses and going to be in the classrooms. Because if you have 20% of your class not there, then you can fill up the space more. You may need to look to redistrict. Dr. Handerhan, I can send you that report that shows, you know, you can fit a lot of people in West Belmar. You can't fit a lot of people in Central because you're at 90% capacity and 65 at West Belmar. Maybe you need to take the highlighter and start moving people. I don't want to, I would like an answer tonight. By a quick show of hands, board members, and anybody here, can you let me know who got a copy of Dr. Cram's report? Does that mean nobody got a copy of Dr. Cram's report? Because you mentioned that you had a copy of Dr. Cram's report. Did nobody get a copy?
So I'm sorry, Ms. Cross, but it's public comment, so the board can receive your comments. It's not a question and answer. It's not intended to be a dialogue. If it's something very simple and direct that can be addressed, we can do that, but public comment is reserved just for that, for comments to be received by the board.
Okay,
And
well, they mentioned that I was a little concerned when Mr. Wanderek said last week that the board needs to have a timeline of the trailers, but he would have, if he had the report, he would have had a timeline. So I question if Mr. Wanderek actually has a copy of the report. I'm getting very nervous. The school wants me to ensure that my kid is going to be safe, and I have no faith whatsoever because I haven't seen this report, and it's almost a year now. And Mercury, God knows what you're doing there because you can't post reports, you only give it to the WTEA. So I have zero faith right now in sending my child to school until I get this information. Samantha Bassett went over this, Kathleen Woods went over this. We need to see the report. And if you can't share the report, there must be a reason. If it was a glowing report, I think we would have spent an hour on it tonight. It would have been on the agenda and we would have emailed it to all the parents. Something is terribly wrong. Bank statements, I still don't have them. There's no reason why the bank, TD Bank, we were a great customer. God knows, we don't even know what we were paying them because Mr. Smythe can't produce it and neither can Mr. Hall. He can talk about it, but he can produce nothing that shows any fees that we were paying. Just another red flag in the list of red flags we have. Mr. Gartz doesn't even show himself on the screen. I'm not sure why. I think there is a policy that says you do need to be listed or your name at least needs to be listed. If we don't have board members that can't even come on here and show their name, maybe they shouldn't be on the board. We need to see spreadsheets for auditors. We need to see spreadsheets for banks. You're doing all these things behind closed doors in private meetings, red flags everywhere. So Mr. Bob Allison, I can send him a lot of information because he should be looking into a lot of irregularities that are going on right now in the Wall Township Board of Education.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up.
Hey, Ralph,
Yes.
could I ask Ms. Cornell if she could explain to the audience the idea of a committee structure versus a committee of the whole, and that these decisions are not behind us, and that, you know, as we just went through with the auditor, there certain decisions are subsected out to different subcommittees. They do their diligence, they do all the work, they report back to the full board, and then it's put on the agenda to vote by the full board. So, you know, we keep getting this, you know, these decisions are made, you know, behind closed doors. So I would just like it if you could just maybe take a moment and maybe explain to people who may not be aware of just how the difference between a committee of the whole and versus a committee structure of subcommittees acts, for the benefit of some on the call.
Sure. I think that was a great description already, Mr. Hall, of how the committee structure works. Essentially, the committee does all the legwork, does the, if, for example, on the auditor, will solicit potential auditors, will go through the interview process, will do the due diligence in that process, and then ultimately make a recommendation to the full board. Very common and very efficient way for boards of education to operate, so that while it may appear that, you know, in the course of a public meeting, you will have many instances where there will be mostly unanimous voting, it's because all of that legwork through the committee structure is done, and all the sort of pieces have been vetted and the research has been done, but any recommendations are then made to the full board, and the full board votes in the public session of the meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Ralph, can I just make a quick answer to one question that was posed that's very simple?
Sure. Let me just close public comment. All right. Go ahead, Russell. I'm sorry.
No worries. I thought there might be more comments. The three auditors who submitted RFPs were the group that we chose: Holman, Freeney, and Allison, the firm Supley Clooney out of New Jersey, and our current auditor, Lurch, Vinci, and Higgins. Those were the three auditing firms.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments from board members? Start on my screen. Ms. Megan, any comments this evening?
I just wanted to say thank you to all the families who completed the survey and volunteered to participate in the stakeholder focus groups. I'm really grateful to be a part of the collaboration and listen to the concerns of the parents. I understand as a mom of 3 young kids, there's nothing more I would like to see them back to school. As a second grade teacher, there's nothing more that I would like to see than to be back with my class as well. And as a board member, you know, I'm really committed to making everything work together. And, you know, I look forward to our board retreat being together this week and, you know, creating our vision for the future. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
No, I think I'm good tonight, Ralph. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wondrak?
I'll pass. I'm good.
Mr. Krupa?
I echo what Ms. Mangan said. I appreciate all the families, staff members, and public participants, community participants that helped with the information that's coming into our administrative team and Dr. Handerhan, Dr. Gleason. It's a lot of work and it's important work. And the only way we're going to get this almost right is if we get that 2 heads are better than 1, even if they are both cabbage working, right? So that's an old coal miner's saying. I did attend one of the sessions where there was input from the smaller group, so that's not unwieldy. And I want to thank those people for that block of time, and they'll be attending some of the other ones just as an observer. We hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Ms. Stites?
I'd just like to welcome Ms. Cornell again. It's great having her. It's been great having Dr. Handerhan in district. This has been a really crazy time, as we all know. We're going to continue to bend, but we're not going to break. And we just have to keep moving forward as a district and do what's best for our kids and our educators. And I, for one, cannot wait until we are on the other side of COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Sanfilippo?
Just wanted to echo the same things, Aaron and Andy. You know, thank you to everybody who has put in tons and tons of hours and effort into this. This is a massive undertaking, and what's, you know, even more difficult is, you know, the rules keep changing as you go along, so it's kind of tough to wiggle and shake with all of those different things. But I really think the district has done a good job of trying to stay ahead of the game here. You know, plan accordingly. You know, this is going to be, you know, a stepping stone, right? So, you know, the goal is to have everybody, you know, back in school 5 days a week, and those are different things, you know, but, you know, as you know, you put 10 different people in a room, you know, these days you have 15 different opinions on things. So we just, I just like to again thank everybody for all the effort, you know, they were putting in, and you know, we're going to do the best we can as a board and as a district. You know, everybody all in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nazar?
Yeah, I would just like to echo everything the same. We are lucky to have a great team here, working hard every day. You know, the next part of this is really where the things start to get tough, because we're going to have to start making decisions. We're going to have to start setting that direction. And I honestly, I have faith in this community. I have faith in this administration. I have faith in the staff, the teachers, everybody, that we're going to get to the right decision for everyone. And it's not going to make everybody happy, but we have to keep going forward. And I couldn't think of a better team of people to be here with, to be part of that decision with. And I just, look forward to echo Ms. Steitz's comment on being on the other side of this as soon as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Gartz.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Anizio, I had a couple other things just to comment back on. In reference to some of the comments made, again, I don't want to talk too long, but just want to address a couple issues. This board has been extremely transparent with the Mercury situation from the minute we got the first notification. We tested as soon as the opportunity came, and to initiate any type of discussion around hiding information or not safe or not comfortable sending your child, there's been nobody in that gym since we knew that there's anything happening. So that's one key element that's important to remind folks. And there will be nobody in that gym if we feel as though it's not the right thing to do. And we've commented that every single week we've had a meeting, and we will continue to do so as a standing agenda item to make sure people are informed. In terms of the test results, they will be shared as well. It's a bulk of information to digest in unbelievably scientific terms, and we are taking our legal guidance, we're taking our professional guidance, and we're doing exactly what we should be doing at this time. So the majority of the public should know that and understand that if there's questions, please submit them and we will address them as best we can at this time. In terms of the report on from Dr. Cram, it came, Dr. Cram finished 21 days ago. Dr. Hanrahan's been here for 7. There is a worldwide pandemic that's killed hundreds of thousands of people. There's been other challenges within that 21-day period. And while putting a bow on the trailers and moving forward as a district is vitally important to us, we're going to move forward in the right time, in the right way, as Dr. Hanrahan gets up to speed and we feel it's the appropriate time. And that's extremely important for everybody to hear. If it's not the timeline of one individual who is eager to know all the facts and figures before some of us on the board know, that's unfortunate, but it's not going to happen on that person's timeline. And the public should know that. In terms of superintendents getting paychecks and this board, having to approve them, contractual obligations are contractual obligations. Audits from 2007 are audits from 2007. As the chair of the F&F committee, I can guarantee you we will not be addressing any items that happened 6, 8, 10, 12 years ago that we're unable to change or unable to deal with. If there is information that needs to go up the chain to people that want to prosecute any one of us or anybody before us, the fairway's wide open for that tee shot. Go ahead and take it, and we'll address that as it comes our way. We have too much to deal with on our plate as it is, and we're going to address the current situation. And the last thing, to reiterate some things that people said about the opening here tonight. The opening is more complex than maybe some people realize. It is primarily about the health and safety of students. We addressed that last week. Continues to be our focus. There's about 37 other legs to the chair, and many of them have to do with things that are extremely complex without any legal guidance, because I haven't met anybody who's been through a worldwide pandemic in our country that can provide us previous advice as to what they did when it occurred in their town, their school, their business, their home. So as many in the town do understand, have been great with us, we're all not going to be happy. We all have to understand that there's a lot of moving parts and that there is no one single story that's going to solve this. And I think as a board, to some of the other comments, we are digesting a lot. Dr. Hanrahan is jumping in. Dr. Gleason is working 37 hours a day, as well as many other staff members that are on this call and in the district. And it's not impossible, but it's certainly a challenge. And while I appreciate everybody's concerns, I would put the 9 people on this board and everyone else on this call's concerns as high as anyone else's. And I think it's just important that we have patience. And I'm not great with patience, but the circumstances demand it. We were thrown a pitch that nobody's ever seen, and we'll just continue to trudge through it as best we can. And I just ask for the community to understand that and to know that they're not going to get their way in every sense of the 15 steps that we have to meet in order to reopen. And I appreciate everybody listening to my little sidebar.
Thank you. Mr. Smythe, did you have anything that you want to add this evening?
I can't follow that, so no, absolutely no.
Dr. Gleason, any final thoughts? No? Dr. Handerhand?
Stay well. And thank you for tuning in tonight.
Sounds good. Okay, with that, I want to say thank you, Dr. Handerhan. Thank you, Dr. Gleason, because I know you guys have been putting in very long hours, and similar to some of the things others said, it's like Charlie Brown when Lucy pulls that football out when it's right in sight. You think you're going to kick it, and they just yank it from you. You know, I know the state is every second of every day throwing you curveballs and pulling that football, and you guys are champs. So thank you for your hard work. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Andy, second. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. Second, Chris. All in favor?
Yay.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Be safe. See you Thursday.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.